The front gable is what we're working on in this tutorial, and it needs a little bit of work. And we've put this board in already as our rake board when we went around the house, but that board continues down, and we need to cut it off the same way that the carpenter would cut it off. This little piece right here, you'll see that in the elevation. And then we need to add another piece right here. So that's what this tutorial is. If we go to the front elevation, you can see that that piece does come down. So I need to get rid of that. So let's try to use architecture component, model in place. Now we're working on the roof. So let's put that in the roof family. And Revit will give it a number. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, let's try cutting it with a void form and see what happens. We'll use the void extrusion. The first thing Revit says is I need a plane. When we're working in the floor plan, Revit assumes that the level, the active level that you're working on is the plane, but in here there are many planes and Revit doesn't know which plane in this view we want to use. So I'm going to say, okay, and we're going to pick a plane, and I'm going to just pick that plane right there. So I'm making an extrusion that extends 10 feet beyond and 10 feet in front of, which is way more. This particular piece is 3/4 of an inch thick. But if I need to grab that void form at any time, it'll be easier when it sticks out so far. So we're going to go up here now and actually draw the void form, the perimeter of it, and it just comes across like that. So that's the piece I want to cut. And I'm going to say, okay. And then I'm going to say cut. And I'm going to pick this guy, and look at that. I cut it out. So I'll accept that. And now I got that little piece cut out on the bottom. See that used to extend like that. Even in this real piece of wood probably extended like that, and the carpenter cut it out. So now I have that, and now I need to put the other piece in there, and that's this piece, and I'll just put that in as an extrusion. So let's go back to the front elevation. It's got to come back and cover the wall. So architecture, component, model in place. It's a roof. We'll say okay. Now Revit's giving it the family name of roof 2. This time I'm going to do an extrusion. Again, it wants to know what the plane is. So I'm going to pick this plane right here. But this time I'm going to say that it extends, that it starts at that plane. So let's see if that'll work. And it extends back -3/4 of an inch, because that would be the size of the extrusion. It's not going to be gypsum board, but let's get it in first before we change the material. So I want it to come over here somewhere beyond the wall, and then up, and then back down. So that would be the piece. Let's see. It looks like I made it, so that's good. And so now I'm going to concern myself with the material, except I don't know what the other material was, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. And let's take a look at that in section and see if it got it in the right spot. So here's I'm just going to cut a quick section right through there and go to that view and change it to fine resolution. And that view is right over here. And look at that, lines up. I believe it lines up right with, well, it's hard to tell. So let's look at it in 3D and see what it does. And there it is. So it does in fact line up. It's the wrong material. I'm going to figure out what's this material first of all. So let's see if we can edit the type. Let's see if it'll tell us what the material is. Cherry. Okay, so now I know what the material is. I can click on this guy, edit the type, and change the material. Do we have material up here? Nope. Do we have material down here? I don't see it. I'm going to look again real quick. So I'm going to say, okay, it's an extrusion. We'll edit it in place. and click on it, and now the material should pop up, and I'm just going to call it cherry. Generally, that's pine in the construction industry, but you can always use whatever material you want. Again, when I built my house, it was all out of redwood. The rake boards and the soffits and everything were all redwood. And it was mostly brick on my house, but there was some siding, and wherever there was siding, I did use horizontal tongue and groove redwood siding, and it really does look pretty nice. So I think that's okay. I'm gonna say okay to that. And look what's going on here. There's two things that don't look good to me. The brick is either too high or the siding comes down too low. So I'll just store that in my memory that I have another thing that I have to come back and fix. And now I'm going to see if I can be lazy. Let's see if I can grab this guy and mirror him about this midpoint. Let's just see if it'll work. Aha, look at that, it did. Okay, and so now that's good, but I still have to clip that little piece out of there. And if we look at this in 3D and spin it around, let's spin it around a little bit here. So I didn't pick something to spin around, so it's spinning around a very weird spot. Now I picked something for it to rotate around. And you can see that when Revit put the wood in here, this is extending too far. So I might be able to grab this little guy and drag him back. Let's see what happens. That looks like I did okay. Escape, escape. Nope, I didn't get it. I'm going to go to the, that would be the right side elevation. Let's see if I can drag it from there. So this is the guy I want to drag. Right now you can see he's extending too far. I have these little dots, quite a few little dots there. I don't know which one to grab. I'm going to grab this one and see what happens. And I just need to drag him back to there. And that might have done it. Let's go back and look at the 3D again. And yep, it did drag it back. So that's good. This guy looks like he extends a little bit too far as well. So I might have to drag him back. So let's go to the front elevation. And sure enough, let's see if I click on this guy, can I drag him back up to there? Yep, okay, so now I've cleaned up those corners, but I still have to cut this little piece out. So let's do that. Architecture, component, model in place. It's a roof. So I'll put it in the roof family. Say okay to whatever numbering Revit wants to do. Again, it's a void form, void extrusion. I have to pick a plane. This is my plane. And I'm going to go back to the 10 feet minus 10 feet as my distance. And then just draw in from here over to here, down to here, and up to there. And we'll say okay, and let's say cut. And let's see if it cuts. And I'm going to cut this guy and this guy. Look at that, it did it. So we'll say okay to that. Go back to our 3D view here. And escape, escape, so nothing's highlighted. And that looks pretty good. That's how we want it. So I still have to put my soffit underneath here, but if you have a gable, your gable end is going to have some additional work to it in order to clean that part up. But this is a good place to stop.